more votes in the state's recount. Remember, this is a recount that was requested by President Trump's campaign in its failing attempt to overturn the election results. The final count gave Biden a more than 180,000 vote edge over his rival in Milwaukee County and certified his victory. By the way, the recount cost millions of dollars, so the Trump team spent millions to lose even harder. Legal defeats also keep mounting for the president. In Pennsylvania, a Trump-appointed judge rejecting the campaign's efforts to undo Biden's certified win in that state. Let's get some expert perspective here. A.B. Stoddard is the associate editor and a columnist at Real Clear Politics, and Mark McKinnon is a former Bush and McCain advisor and the co-host of The Circus on Showtime. Mark, I want to start with you. A recount that adds to your opponent's lead, not a good sign of where things are.
No, it's not. I think the legal cases now are they've lost 40 and won 1, I believe. This is called clawing your way to the bottom. That's the problem with recounts, particularly in an area where Biden did well and Democrats do well. If you do a recount, you're likely to get more Democratic votes. That's just how this works. But they're obviously trying to throw every possible bit of paint on the wall that they can, and they're just not meeting a lot of success.
A.B., the judge in Pennsylvania said in his ruling that calling an election unfair does not make it so. I cannot keep stressing this enough. This is a judge appointed by President Trump. Accusations of bias go out the window. Today, though, Kayleigh McEnany argued that the judges, it's a 3-judge panel, she argued that they misunderstood the case. The campaign obviously not accepting the outcome. So is it fair to assume at this point that the president is going to be fighting this all the way to January 20th and likely beyond?
I think that President Trump has made that perfectly clear. He's raising money for his political future for the leadership PAC with the donations he's asking for these recounts and his sort of election defense fund. And the voters are buying it. Everything that he tells them on Twitter, most of which you've made a good point, Boris, of pointing out is not true about these recounts, about the lawsuits, about the secret evidence that he's going to present but never does, is believed. And that's why that whole scene in Georgia today with the Republican National Committee chairwoman is so telling. The Republican Party has Donald Trump has convinced the Republican voters who supported him on Election Day, millions and millions and millions of them, that he is the victim of a mass conspiracy and the election was stolen from him. And that's why voters in Georgia don't believe that the vote on January 5th for 2 Senate runoffs is going to be above board, because they were told by the president the Georgia vote on November 3rd was not. So the party is lighting itself on fire by standing by as President Trump says all these things. It's not just reckless. It's not just another Trump show. This is an attack on the system itself, which we will pay for years and years to come. And the Republicans remain silent, and as a result are very likely to lose the runoffs on January 5th as a result, because they have not told those voters that what the president is saying is a lie.
Mark, I'm glad A.B. brought up Georgia, because he tweeted, the president, that he is heading to Georgia next weekend, where 2 runoffs will decide the balance of power in the Senate. Given that he just lost the general election in the Peach State, is his presence going to help or hurt the 2 Republican candidates?
I think it'll help. Listen, he's got to undo the damage that he already did, that A.B. just pointed out, which is he's trying to say that the election wasn't a legal election, and then double back and try and convince supporters to come out in another election to vote, and that this one will be okay and the last one wasn't. So it's a very mixed message. So he's got to go down there and straighten that out. And listen, it is important for Trump to be there foursquare, because I think that his supporters are not going to be animated unless he is out there. And listen, I think that generally speaking, a runoff election on a non-presidential election favors Republicans. So this ought to be an advantage Republican. Special elections generally are historically. So listen, I mean, this is unprecedented times and unprecedented elections, and it may be a different case. But Republicans are going to have to rally all their effort, and that includes getting Trump there foursquare, I believe.
Now, I want to make time to ask you about something that has struck me today, and I want both of your perspectives on this. According to CNN's tabulation, President Trump has spent about 20%, 1 in 5, of his days in office playing golf. Now, I don't fault anybody for taking time off for de-stressing, for recreation. It's an extremely high stressful job, the presidency. You have to respect that. But the reason this strikes me is because before he was president, he judged his predecessor routinely. He routinely went after President Obama for playing golf. In fact, he tweeted nearly 30 times criticizing Obama about golfing. And notably, he criticized President Obama for playing golf during the Ebola outbreak, when there were only 2 cases of Ebola in the United States. Right now, there are more than 13 million coronavirus cases in the United States. There are people dying. There are people going hungry. More Americans are in the hospital because of coronavirus than at any point in the pandemic. AB, what does all of this say to you about President Trump and his character?
Well, President Trump has been a hypocrite since the day he entered the presidential race in 2015. People have kept lists of all of the tweets he sent during the Obama presidency attacking President Obama for all sorts of things. It's too long to list here, which he then ended up doing himself. Golfing at his own properties and feathering his own nest, making profits off of events held at Mar-a-Lago and the Trump International Hotel here in D.C., and everything that he has done throughout his presidency is of no bother to his voters. This does not bother them in any way, and he has known that, which is why he's continued to do it. He has more than 3,000 conflicts of interest with his presidency and the Trump Organization since the time he's been in office. And the fact that he's sort of given up on the pandemic does not bother his voters in one bit either. So it really doesn't cause him any political price or pain, which is why he's always continued to do it, even though we've continued to point out these facts all along.
Mark, I spent too long setting up the question, so we're short on time. Give me your quick take on President Trump golfing.
I say it's one of the greatest hypocrisies of his presidency, even though, like you, I say, listen, it should be mandatory that all presidents golf just to take the stress off. But the fact is that he lit up President Obama every time he went out. Every time he talked about how inappropriate it was that Obama was golfing. And as we now know, Obama didn't golf nearly as much as President Trump has, or on the kind of solemn occasions where we have a health crisis going on.
Yeah. Mark McKinnon, A.B. Stoddard, thank you both so much for your time. Hope you have a good rest of your Thanksgiving weekend.
Take it, Boris. Thanks.
Thanks. Now, as we head into the holiday season, many families are on the brink of economic disaster. The images of long lines at food banks are becoming all too familiar.